So how do you write fast? Everybody's motive is going to be different. It might be for an assignment, or it may be a bucket list item that you're wanting to get done before a certain time period. The quickest way to do it is to go ahead and create your 3-act structure. What do you want to happen in the beginning, the middle, and the end? Your first 25% is act 1, your last 25% is act 3, and the middle is 50%. Now, you can have 4 acts where you kind of see act 2 as 2 different acts, but they need to work together. For example, in the story Legends of the Fall, in Act 2, one of the brothers has passed away and the other 2 launch out on their own life journeys. Act 2 ends with some trauma happening in their lives and they end up back at the same place where they grew up to finish out Act 3. So there's a lot going on in Act 2, but Act 2 is about them leaving home and going on their journeys and then returning home. So Act 2 is very different than Act 1 and Act 3. It's a different world. But go ahead and break up your story into those 3 acts. Somewhere in Act 1, you're going to have to create what they call the inciting incident. For example, Indiana Jones gets a phone call that the mummy was stolen from a museum in Cairo and he has to make a decision. That's the inciting incident. What's going to happen that's going to make him decide what his reaction is going to be to that, and that's going to hurl us into the story. So if you know where your main characters are going to start, what's going to hurl them into the story, what's going to demand a reaction from them, they enter the new world, which is Act 2. The story could end at the end of Act 2. In other words, from Legends of the Fall, the brothers come home, but there's something remaining that has to find closure, and that's going to be your Act 3. So if you know where they're going to start, where they're going to be during the middle of their journeys, where they're going to end up, and what the inciting incident is, 85% of your job is done. Because most people, when they write a story, if they don't have a lot of experience, they just write as they go, making up stuff. That's why your first memoir, your first novel, your first story, your first screenplay, whatever it is, that's why it takes people a long time. It's because they didn't plan, or they didn't know to plan ahead just a little. You don't have to have an extensive outline. You just kind of have to have an idea of where you're going. If you're going to take a road trip from Florida to Alaska, you don't have to know every single exit you're going to take or where you're going to stay or what restaurants you're going to be eating in, but you need a pretty good general idea of how you're going to get there. Next, make sure your story is clear. Keep it as simple as you can. Make sure your characters are believable. And then after you write your story, you polish and you fine tune it. Know at the end of the day, your objective is to keep the audience's attention and to deliver a good story. If you're keeping them engaged and you're not losing their attention, you're doing your job. You're telling a good story. They won't care about your fancy words. They won't care about your clever concepts. Therefore, you have to keep your audience in mind when you're creating your story. I believe I should mention character arc somewhat. All of your characters need to be in a different emotional state by the end of the story. But character arcs isn't hard, because if you're putting your characters on adventures, if you're putting them through challenges, they will change naturally as you write. When Frodo and his friends leave the Shire in the beginning, they are not going to be the same when they get back. So when you tell a good story, you won't have to focus too much on character arc, but you do need to be conscious of it. I hope that helps. Do you have any thoughts? Do you have any questions? Is there something that you would like to share? Put them in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any more videos. I plan to keep cranking them out.